Howdy, everyone. Many GMAT stories and success stories revolve around rigorous studying, relentless practice, and unrelenting effort. But what if I told you that too much of this, too much studying, could actually hurt your score? Howdy, I'm Forrest, and today we're talking with Simon, a bright undergrad we have from Texas A&M, who faces an unusual challenge. When taking his mock score, he started to see them drop intensely after his preparation. But just 2 days before his actual test, he scored a disappointing 645 on his practice exam. Instead of pushing harder, he made the bold decision, completely stop thinking about the GMAT, relax, and reset his mindset. The result, he walked into test day refreshed and scored a phenomenal 735, which is in the 99th percentile. In this episode of GMAT Success Stories, we'll talk not only about the prepping strategy, but also the role of mindset, sleep, nutrition, and mental well-being, and how it makes or breaks your GMAT score. Thank you so much for having us here, Simon. I wanted
Yeah,
to take a second to introduce.
yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me. So I guess a little bit of background on me. Yeah, I'm a senior undergraduate student at Texas A&M University. I'm currently studying computer science, and the reason why I took my GMAT so early is because I wanted to apply for deferred MBA programs in like M7 schools. So I wanted to get like a pretty high score. Uh, yeah, and I started my test prep. Uh, in like June of last year, where me and a friend were just kind of doing some of the practice problems, maybe like 5 problems a day. And we kind of stopped after 2 weeks. And then once I realized the time for my test was starting to close in after like I only had like a month left, I started grinding all throughout
Yeah.
winter break. And here we are now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that it is a grind when it comes to studying for the GMAT. And it's good that you had a study partner because I know if you're doing it by yourself, it can get pretty grueling. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to that sort of stuff, and sort of like beginning the prep, how did you know how much time you would need, or was it more just by the fact that you were surrounded by other people who were thinking about it, or you had a vision? Obviously, you're going for a deferred program M7. What's sort of the vision there?
So, the ideally, what the plan would have been is that I would have continued studying regularly over the course of like an entire year, or like I guess I would have done it for over the course of 6 months, and
Hmm.
then like gotten like a supremely high score.
Hmm.
But obviously that's not how things turn out. Um, I went on like Reddit forums and I went on gmatclub, and they're like most people generally study around like 6 weeks to like maybe 3 months or 4 months.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, fine. I'll give myself 4 months. Then like 4 months hit. I'm like, you know what? I can squeeze it in 3 months. And then lo and behold, it goes until 6 months where it's like winter break. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I gotta actually lock in now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was really grateful like to have somebody to talk to at least just even if we're not studying at the same time,
Hmm.
just like walking through the process and be like, yo, this is what I'm having struggles with, you know,
Hmm.
could you help me through this? So
Yeah.
yeah, having a partner is like really helpful, especially when you're like going through like the mental fatigue of it all. When you're seeing like your scores like drop or you're not seeing much progress, you
Hmm.
have somebody like having your back.
Yeah. No, I think having that partner helps you get through there. And I'm interested to see, like, you had such a long study period. What was maybe the most intense day that you went through? And what was some way that you sort of like reset yourself after that or pushed yourself to keep going?
Yeah, I guess like some of the most intense days was just like probably like Christmas and New Year's
Hmm.
because I mean GMAT Club is wonderful for offering like a lot of free tests. But I definitely got a little bit of backlash from the family when I started just grinding during Christmas and New Year's,
Yep.
because I was just so obsessed with getting a high score.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I guess that was probably like the most difficult time. And what got me through is just like, as you might go into later, it's just like my one complete day of just break before my exam.
Yeah.
Because like, as you introduced in the intro, I had a 6:45 on my mock the 2 days before my exam, and so I was just thinking I'm completely cooked.
Yeah.
Like, I might as well just you know, focus on me instead.
Hmm.
So I just took the complete break. I asked my family like, what should I do? I probably got to take another attempt at this.
Hmm.
So what should I do? And they're like, just don't focus on anything. Just do what you know, and I think you should be fine.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just walked and I went to the store,
Hmm.
got a smoothie.
Hmm.
That's all I did that day.
Yeah. Go back to the fundamentals when you feel like you're cooked. It seems like it's good advice on that one. Um,
Yeah, because there's no point. If I only had a day, I can't really get any fundamental concepts that I've missed.
mhm,
Um, and that's just gonna strain my brain. I could definitely feel the fog hitting
mhm,
um throughout this entire study period of well, I guess intense study period of 6 weeks.
mhm,
Um, where just as the time progressed, even though I understood more material and if I was given an infinite amount of time to solve any problem, I probably could have solved it.
yeah.
But that's not how the test works.
Mhm,
And so the fog was definitely slowing me down and definitely making me overthink my answers.
mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good point. When I was going through the GMAT as well, was sort of that shift in mindset where it's like they're not telling you you can't solve this problem. It's just can you solve it in 2 or 2.5 minutes. And so I think a lot of times we'll be like, "Oh, I'm cooked." Like I looked at this problem and I'm like, "I have no idea," or I'm already like 4 minutes in, and I'm just like, "Okay, we need to go to the next problem."
Yeah.
Was there something like you told yourself, or like, do you sort of like think back on times and or you're just like taking a deep breath? What was kind of your strategy when you found that question or hit that wall and you're like, "Dang, this is I'm cooked on this one."
Yeah, I mean, I definitely throughout my entire studying and do my mocks and stuff. I definitely had many times where I was like, I have no idea how to solve this problem. I don't even know how to tackle this. GMAT Ninja did not prepare me for this.
Yeah, I was not prepared.
Yeah. So, I would try brute forcing. I mean, there was only especially a lot of my issues were in quant, and
Hmm.
so since there were five answers, I was like maybe just speedily like brute force the answer, and
Hmm.
I would get lucky sometimes. I feel like that might have artificially inflated my first mock because I did that a lot on my
Hmm.
first mock,
Yeah.
and I guess since I didn't have any initial fatigue, my arithmetic was able to catch up.
Hmm.
um, but as time progressed, I soon realized that was not a good strategy for me. But I did do that in my mock. Oh, sorry, in my actual test, maybe once. Because it's always a good fallback method. I've learned. The GMAT. What I've realized about the GMAT is that um, it's not testing your ability to solve a problem in one way. It's also testing your ability to be if you kind of deviate, you follow a red herring.
Hmm.
Um, if you gotta switch up your tactic, you gotta switch up fast, and it also tests that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I think it gave a lot of different diverse strategy techniques, which I think they recognize is important for business school or decision makers down the line. And so I guess we've talked a little bit about actual GMAT attempt. What was kind of your entire day? I know you said there was a smoothie, there was walking. Was there any preparation you did outside of that, or what was your schedule for the day?
honestly, that when I went into that day, I was just realizing the grass is so green outside, that the sun was shining a little bit bright.
Yeah.
Like I was just trying to enjoy my life because I wasn't able to this last month. And
Hmm.
so yeah, no, I just did everything out of whim. The only rule that I had that rule was that day was just don't think about that test.
Yeah.
Do not think about that test. You can think about that plenty tomorrow.
Hmm.
Just take a break. And so it was tough. I had to block gmatclub and I had to block everything and just focus on me for that day.
Hmm.
Because it got to a point where it's if I've been doing this for 6 weeks, it's just becomes habitual to
Hmm.
just neurotically check every forum, neurotically check every Reddit post to be what's the new tactic for this question?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but yeah, it wasn't helping, so I just shut everything off.
Yeah. No, I definitely get you because I remember I think maybe I was studying for like 3, 4 weeks, just like back to back, like after work, 2 hours, 3 hours until like the sun's gone, my eyes are bloodshot. And I think when you shut yourself in your little hole, you're like caveman style. You like push the rock and you're just like, oh my goodness, there's all these colors outside. I'm not seeing GMAT questions anymore. And
Fresh air. What is
yeah,
this?
I, I can breathe right. My eyes don't hurt. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like the average computer science major,
yeah.
just like I know. I feel like especially during finals week, because
Mhm.
that's like the only thing I have since I'm an undergrad.
Mhm.
Just it just kind of felt like finals week for 6 weeks. Where I was
Yeah.
just like in there, barely eating, just like
Yeah.
barely washing myself, stinky. Like,
Yeah. You're just like, "I don't remember my chair sticking to me so much."
yeah. Is that sweat? No, that's just food. Oh God.
You're just like, "When did I have chips? What is that?"
Did I have the second neck? Where did this come from?
Yeah, exactly. Um, I guess that's a good point to go into, nutrition and sleep and sort of, like, mindset. I know in comp sci, a lot of times we just shut ourselves in and we're just like, "I will only be coding. I will only be practicing this language." What played a part into your sleep schedule or nutrition that you maybe changed or prepped for the GMAT?
Yeah. Well, I'm just for discretion. I had a completely destroyed sleep schedule before I started the GMAT prep. Depending on the day, or depending if I had class, I guess, it would either be like, I don't know, I would sleep at like 1 and wake up at like 11, or if I had class, then it would be like 12 to like 7.
Mhm,
So it was irregular and definitely wasn't the healthiest.
mhm,
And the GMAT studying definitely worse than that.
yeah,
That's no fault to the test. It's just I'm irresponsible.
mhm,
So I mean, during winter break, I would just regularly, I would just, I would stay up until like 3, and my parents would be like, "Simon, please, please go to sleep,"
yeah,
and I'd be like, "No, one more problem. I got
y
this time."
yeah,
And then I'd lose because it's 3 a.m. and I
mhm,
have no brain power left.
yeah,
And yeah, and I would like say to myself like, "Oh yeah, I'm waking up early today." And then I
mhm.
wake up at like 1 p.m. I'd be like, "Dang it!
How could this happen again?
How is this happening? I thought sleeping at 3 is a good idea."
Yeah, I've done everything right. It's 3 a.m. when I hit the bella. Why am I not up at 6 to go grind?
Yeah, I know. Like I thought I could be just like completely grind set, but nah, baby needs to sleep, you know?
Yeah, no, when you you get down to it, it's 3 a.m. They open the door and all they see is just the blue light from your monitor, just like in your whole
Yeah.
room, and you're just like one more question as your hands like shakily trying to touch it like it's a touch screen.
Yeah, I'm just like slack-jawed, drooling, just like trying to solve like a mixture problem.
Yeah. Oh man, do you going through the different like permutations and combination problems? I was always just like, oh my god, my brain, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, the biggest struggle for me was definitely algebra, which
Mhm,
sucks because like I definitely took algebra way closer to my time than like most of the people studying,
mhm.
which kind of stings. But like, um, yeah, no, a lot of the algebra rules, there were just so many, and especially like inequalities. That got me a ton.
Oh yeah.
Especially Buñuel's problems on GMAT.
Mhm.
Um, just any of his problems. They completely destroyed me. Like I would think I'm a genius for solving like a 600 level question, and I'm completely wrong because there's like a misdirection in the middle.
Yeah.
So
They
yeah.
they they get you with this slight rule change, and you're just like, "Oh my god, I look like a complete idiot right now." The
Yeah, I know.
GMAT's like, "Gotcha."
It's like, oh, he meant positive integer.
Uh-huh.
Dang it.
Oh my goodness! I remember I don't know if it was the same one, but it was like the wording of the question was it had to be a positive integer, or like the wording was a little
Constraint.
ambiguous, but it was that it was a positive integer, and I was just like, "Oh, this is an easy one. Check, like done in like 1 minute." And then I was like, "Oh my god, I got cooked so bad by
Yeah,
Manuel."
like if they say like it's a natural number or
Mhm.
something, like I'm like, what is that again? Or like a real number? Like
Yeah. You're just
whenever like come across those in like any of the GMAT club problems, I would like blank for a second because like this is not real. This is not positive integer. This is a non-zero number. What is this?
yeah. You're like this is just fake right here. I'm not a fraud. I know what I'm doing.
It's not a real. This is not real math.
Yeah. No one would ever do something like this in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's clear that algebra was potentially a hurdle going through. Did you have maybe specific strategies that you went through when it came to the different sections?
So I mean, a lot of algebra was just like covering the fundamentals, and so
Hmm.
besides besides like official paid stuff like the mocks and the official guide questions,
Hmm.
I didn't really want to pay for anything else, and
Yeah.
so I did the TTP 5-day trial, which
Yep.
is, oh my god, extraordinarily helpful. I would totally recommend like taking the full course if you have money. Unfortunately, I am not that.
Yes.
Or at least I just didn't want to be that.
Hmm.
um I'm pretty sure if I asked my parents they would have definitely given me the money,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was incredibly helpful, especially for roots and exponents, because there were
Yep.
definitely some core concepts that I was missing, as well as just in the first module, if you're familiar with how TTP is structured, they kind of just in the first module give you a ton of just basic properties you should understand, and
Hmm.
I didn't realize how many basic properties I completely forgot
Hmm.
as an undergrad. So yeah, the only strategy was just picking up my fundamentals, and that translates immensely during whenever you're targeting more complex problems.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's maybe a mistake I did on my preparations. Like I just dove into like GMAT club questions. I'm like, oh come on, math, I can nail this, and I
I mean,
started going in, and then I got like halfway in, and I was like, oh my god, am I dumb? I don't know math,
yeah.
and I think as you said, the targeted test prep, I think just the 5-day trial was super helpful because of the way they just broke it down. Like if you just do the fundamentals and just read like for each of the sections, I was like, "Oh my goodness." Like like eye opening. I was like, "Oh, that's how I need to think about this," or like that's just like a basic concept that's going to be throughout, and then you start seeing it in all the problems.
Hmm. Yeah, like it's incredibly thorough. It's so comprehensive. Like I feel like I don't know. I'm not sponsored, but I mean like I feel like if you go through every single module in like a proper amount of time, you're like guaranteed like a 500 plus score. Because
Hmm.
like I don't know, I didn't really come across a problem where I was like, "Oh, this didn't prepare me for that." And if I did, I was like, "Oh, it was a 5-day trial. I didn't really see everything." They probably had it somewhere hidden deep in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it was incredibly helpful for also combinations. The bane to everyone's existence,
Hmm.
combinations and probability. Because
Hmm.
like before doing that, like that TTP free trial, like I would do like the 500 level problems, like the 500, 605 level problems on GMAT Club, and I would get them wrong. I'd be
Yeah.
like, this is the worst. Like
Yeah.
everyone is saying, don't miss the easy problems, and I am missing the easy problems.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, it got me from like kind of 0 to 100.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of like support, I know I constantly came into the hurdle of like I do a question, I'm like, oh, I got like a 600 question right, I'm good. Then gets like a 500 question wrong, and I'm just like, oh my god, like the GMAT is not going. I'm gonna be punished for this.
Yeah.
Um, Besides TDP and GMAT Club, was there other resources or like outside strategies you used for your preparation?
Aside from, TTP free trial, OG stuff, and like the GMAT Ninja and GMAT Club YouTube videos, I didn't really use any other resources. Um, because I mean, I'm generally kind of a pretty frugal guy,
Hmm.
sometimes to my detriment, because I think I definitely could have benefited from having more premium study materials.
Hmm.
Me saying that I only use like official guide stuff is not me detracting from how great the other resources are.
Yeah.
um, I'm just um, I'm just a weirdo, I guess.
It's all good. I'm a weirdo here as well. I don't know how many in our audience are the same way, but I was just grinding the free direct from GMAT tests. I was just doing all the OGs. I was just like, well, if I just take the same test multiple times, I'll get a rhythm for, what the questions are, where I'll start missing or where I'll start fogging. And then like
Yeah,
when I get to the actual test day, I'm like, I already know how it's going to be paced out and where I'm going to be like, oh God, I need to slow down, take a breath, don't miss the easy one right there.
yeah. I mean, like testing strategies. I that's definitely something I wish I focused on more actually.
Yeah.
Because during my mocks I had like pretty regular, um, you know, at a pretty regular rhythm. So
Mhm.
I thought everything was gonna be okay. But the wonderful thing about the GMAT is that it's an adaptive test. So when I was taking my actual test, since I scored so much higher, the questions were getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
And so especially nearing like at the end of verbal, I had like
Mhm.
5 minutes to solve 5 questions. I was like, oh no, this is not at all what I prepared for.
Uh-huh.
And so, luckily, I was able to score well because I think I had a lot of my fundamentals down pretty good.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
prepare like whenever you're taking your mocks and like if you're scoring a little bit less, try to solve it a little bit faster.
Mhm.
Or just like expect to have less time than you do on your mocks. And
Mhm.
I think that'll just help your mental in the long run.
Yeah.
Um, because like, if you see your time taking on the actual test, you might be more inclined to make sillier mistakes, especially on quant, because they punish you a ton on quant.
Oh yeah. No, Quant is like I think that's probably the one that I did the most like timing practice for because I was just like, look, for verbal and data insights, I can probably just, I can put in my best guess if I'm coming down to time
Yeah.
and I'll probably have like maybe a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
But when it came to Quant, it's like there's so many ways that they can misdirect you and give you red herrings that I was just like, if I don't have my timing down for quant, I'm gonna probably miss the last two just because I run out of time. And
Hmm.
so I remember during test day, I like came through quant and I was like, oh, I got an extra 2 minutes. I'm gonna be fine. And then I get to data insights and like the last four questions, I had like three
Yeah.
minutes, and I was like, yep, yep, yep. This is a drop down. Don't worry about it. It's right.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, data insights. Data insights is such an interesting section. Like it's like I guess their thought process is just like it's an amalgamation of both the reasoning. I
Mhm.
mean, that's my thought. Um, but the graphical interpretation stuff was like super difficult for me to start understanding. And I think that's like a common thing amongst a lot of people on the forum. It's just like even though like I come from like a science like I don't know, like computer science, data science based background, like even I was like what am I looking at? Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'd look at like in the first OG mock for this year or I think maybe last year, they had like a weird like traffic flow diagram,
Hmm.
or they have like diagrams
Yes.
with just like multiple axes and multiple charts with multiple axes
Yep.
as you get more complex. And you're like, how am I supposed to solve this in 2 minutes?
Yeah. You're like, there's so much information in this graph. You like someone could probably have a presentation on this graph for like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And so I think I remember the one where it's like the traffic count going east west, going west east, going north
Yeah,
south,
that one.
southwest, and it was just like, yeah, I think it's like which like potential combination has the most or least traffic on a given day, and I was just
Mhm.
like, let me break it down.
Exactly, yeah. Um, but what I would say to tackle those more difficult problems is to um, do like easier problems quicker. So like table analysis problems, generally, uh, at least I personally find them easier because you gotta just find the keyword that they're looking for and then sort by it, and
Yeah.
then generally you can get some insights from that.
Mhm.
Usually they ask like some sort of like correlation problem or like standard deviation problem. So if you have those core concepts down, you should be fine for the quant-based table analysis problem. I think they're all quant-based,
Mhm.
um, as well as data sufficiency.
Mhm.
GMAT offers like really good resources to tackle data sufficiency, or GMAT Ninja too, since they do data sufficiency with their quant as well. Um, and so if you have a good fundamental score on quant, you will be able to score well on data sufficiency, as long as you take your time and really expand the question stem. And that will give you the extra time you need to do graphical interpretation and what were another? Oh yeah, multi-source reasoning.
Yeah, the
The
like
other bane to
multi-tab
everyone's
one, those
existence.
one killed me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those stink, especially if they're multi-part. Because I guaranteed I would make 2 out of 3 every time.
It's like no matter what, they're gonna get you on one of them because they'll just be like just enough interpretation in the question or just enough not information that you'll just like skip over the tab or you'll go like direct to the word that they referenced in the question and it's like, well, actually, we're talking about a relationship between that word, and you're just like, oh, well,
Yeah. Yeah. A really simple thing I would miss frequently is like correlation, which is
hmm
like, in concept is incredibly easy,
yeah,
but like sometimes they would word it weirdly. So they'd be like, oh, is there a positive correlation between this and the decrease of this?
hmm
And you just ignore like the relationship, like the specific relationship that they're asking for, and you just see two keywords and you're like, I can see that. That's wrong. And then
yeah.
it's actually
You're
right.
just like, yeah, look, it's super easy. I can't believe they would ask me this.
Yeah. Just like the GMAT is really great at testing your ability to read carefully.
hmm
And I thought that that was just like a skill that I would need in verbal, but after I saw like my like data insight score, I was like, oh, it's for everything. It's
Yeah,
actually no. Once I saw my quant score too, it's for everything. Because I just didn't read constraints for like the first 2 weeks.
yeah. You're just like, ah, I can do it.
Yeah,
Um, all right. So I think uh, I'm going to ask Simon kind of his advice that he would share with other GMAT students, sort of going through the same thing, same process, and kind of open up the floor to our audience for any questions they may have that we can get answered right now. So, Simon, what advice would you kind of provide to other GMAT students who are going through it that you've learned?
of course. If y'all take anything from this meeting, please take breaks. I am begging you from the bottom of my heart, please take breaks in the middle of your studying and like eat and sleep and prioritize your family because no matter what your score is, oh no, actually it will benefit your score in the long run, 100% guarantee. Because it's like working a muscle, honestly. If you go to the gym 7 times a day, your muscle only gets stronger once you're in the recovery process. If you're never in the recovery process, you don't really reap the rewards of all the hard work you're putting in. And so it's the same thing with studying. If you study for an extended period of time, you're just going to get more fatigued and you're
Yeah.
not going to see an improvement in your score. I mean, like, I'm a living example of that. All of my mocks are a steady decline. From like my first mock in December of last year, I got a 665. And then 2 days before my exam, I got a 645. So I lost 20 points, even though I knew so much more material.
hmm
So just take some time to prioritize yourself. And like, I know sometimes you'd be cheating because my parents would be like, take a break. And I would say I take a break, but I'm listening to like a GMAT podcast on my phone.
Yeah.
It's like, take an actual break.
Yeah.
Like, just go out there, enjoy the world.
hmm
Because, I mean, you only got one life, right?
Yeah.
No matter what your score is, you're still going to be you. So
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. That you can't stress yourself out or think like the score is the only part that's going to matter when it comes to your application. Like, I'm sure we've all gone through like having a 3 hour class before, and you're just like by an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're like, I literally can't absorb any information. All my notes look like chicken scratch. Well, like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do from here?
Definitely. Yeah, I had so many like so-called notes, but really it's just like nonsensical garbage that I just
Yeah.
wrote for hours on end.
hmm
And I would go through like just journals full of that. And like I try to read any of it, and it's just it's like hieroglyphics to me now.
Yeah, you're just like, I was in the dark so long, I forgot what language was, and so it's just
Yeah.
all just like this question, and then you just like write down something. You're like, that would be very helpful if I understood any of what it was saying.
Yeah, no. Like I'm the GMAT prep has done like irreparable damage to my handwriting. Like
hmm
since I was prioritizing speed so much, like I'm actually writing like a doctor now.
hmm They're just
Like
like, I'm so proud of you, but what does that say?
yeah. Like I would write like a lot of core things that I would miss, especially things like, watch out for constraints,
Hmm.
make sure to like find the conclusion in your like critical reasoning problems. But yeah, like the next day I would try to read it and I'd be like, yeah, this is nothing. I have
Yeah.
no idea what this is saying, and then proceed to make the same mistake again. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's like something that I struggle with in quant, just like keeping my work tidy.
Hmm.
Because like I would get through all of the problem, and then like because my work was so like weirdly structured, I would like see a number and I'd be like, ah, yes, this number, that's my
Hmm.
answer. And it
Yep.
unluckily happens to be an answer, and I get
Hmm.
it wrong. I'm like, how did this happen? I had like everything right,
Yep.
but alas.
Yeah, they always want to get you with those red herrings. They're like, if any step of the way we can include like two numbers that'll come in the calculation, they're like, yeah, put that in. They're like, we want to
Yeah.
see them struggle.
Yeah.
um, I guess kind of one of my questions then, because I struggled with it as well, was what's like going back through notes is obviously difficult to kind of get into the same mindset. What was potentially a note that you actually kept through all the way? Yeah, I know we talked a lot about fundamentals. How did you kind of keep that note through or remind yourself, like, hey, take time on this or, this specific structure? How did you structure or write that note? And how did you sort of help your brain recall throughout the test?
Of course. And so, I guess the biggest note that I had was just don't miss constraints at all. Or actually, it's two. Don't miss constraints and expand the question stem whenever you're tackling data sufficiency problems.
Mhm,
And so, I guess just whenever I saw just I would make like I would take care of the first part and last part of a sentence, like read them very carefully,
mhm,
because that's where they usually keep the constraints. They never really keep it in the middle because that's like where they keep like the problem question stem.
mhm,
And so yeah, just I I made extensive care to just read that. And for data sufficiency, that was just all through practice. Um, just I had to like classically condition myself to like whenever I see a data sufficiency problem, okay, spend like a solid minute on the stem. Unless it's like something like completely easy, like Matt has more things than like Sally, and that's the only thing. Um, then there's like no reason to expand, and you can just continue on with the problem.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was just grinding and putting in the hours to make sure like, okay, there's this type of problem. I gotta make sure I don't make the same mistake I did 45 times.
Yeah.
Like
You're like
46
going
times the charm, okay?
Yeah, you're, like, going through your head like one of those scenes from a movie, just like, "No, no, did it wrong there, there, there."
Yeah, carry the one. Yeah, yeah.
And you're just like, "Perfect, now I understand perfectly exactly what this answer
Yeah.
means."
Oh, I guess another just core note that I had for myself was just don't speed through arithmetic,
Mhm,
because I tend to just make a really silly mistakes when I'm doing like addition and subtraction. Things that like, we can obviously do. But like under time pressure, you're like, okay, yeah, 80 minus 30 is negative 50. And that's okay.
Yup.
And then like unfortunately, I think they just like understand how like the human brain works over there. I mean, they spend a lot of money on their problems.
Mhm,
And so like MBA.com just like gives you a killer answer.
yeah.
And then you put it in and then you miss like a 500 level problem.
Yeah. You're you're just like, "Oh, yep, I got that easy." And then you're, like, looking at it, you're like, "Wait, none of my answers are on are on there right now."
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I'm in like a whole order of magnitude off. What
Yeah,
happened?
like, I'm so far off, not even GMAT could have predicted where I ended up.
Yeah. Okay, I'm unique. Okay.
You're like, "I'm special because GMAT couldn't predict me."
Yeah. Yeah. Try handling that MBA.com.
Yeah, you thought you knew us. I'm different.
I'm actually stupid. Okay.
I can just imagine now, like someone puts that in their MBA application for their essay. They're just like, "Yeah, so what was a unique challenge for me was I all my GMAT practice, I never got any of the questions right on my first calculation, and I knew I was different."
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, uh, I don't know if you have sort of like any other advice you want to sort of end off on, or potentially like where you see yourself going? I mean, 735, you're in the 99th percentile. He's told us M7. Is there maybe a particular dream school and sort of vision beyond that that you have yet, or is it we need to get more sleep first?
Yeah, I mean, like, I got plenty of sleep now. I mean, like, I've definitely enjoyed my week of
Mhm,
celebration after getting this test score, and so, I've given a lot of time for myself to, like, truly just, like, bask in the limelight.
mhm,
Um, and I'm once again, I'm really thankful for you providing this opportunity for me to just speak out and, like, share the story to other people and get people to, like, relax for themselves.
yeah,
I guess, yeah, dream school, I mean, like, you already know. Like, I mean, Harvard, Stanford, I mean, like, MIT would be cool just because, as a computer scientist,
yeah,
I really like, the engineering they do over there.
yeah. A lot
Um,
of good cross collaboration between the schools and the different disciplines.
yeah, Booth has a great, entrepreneurship program,
Mhm,
and that's what I'm trying to lean into.
yeah,
A lot of my extracurriculars and the things I'm heavily involved in are like focused on the nonprofit sector or volunteering or service related industries.
mhm,
And I kind of, through the MBA, kind of wanted to make either a startup or found a nonprofit of myself,
mhm,
um, to like relating to tech in any way.
yeah,
And I don't know, that just seems like something I really like to do. Like the comp sci is great because like the skills are heavily transferable to any other field,
mhm,
and I feel like a lot of my passions reside in the service industry. So I kind of want to mix those two worlds because like nonprofits don't really pay that much. So
mm-mm. Yeah.
I gotta
You
find my own niche.
Yeah, no, that'd be super cool, and I appreciate you so much for coming on. I think comp sci, I think the very fundamental of it is like you know how to structure data arguments or conversations to naturally be like, all right, here's where we're starting. How do we get to the end point? And they do a really good job. Same with a lot of different engineers, but of being like, here's the path. How do we build the bridge to get to the end? And so I'm really excited that we got to talk to you, Simon. I think you're gonna do some phenomenal things going forward.
That's great. I think you're gonna do phenomenal things too, Forrest.
Don't make me blush. Just because we're live doesn't mean you're gonna get brownie points from me.
Oh, okay. Wow, ridiculous. And I think all of the people who are watching this video, either recorded live or watching on YouTube, like since you're going through the effort to like watch a 40-minute video on like
Mhm,
some guy talk about getting the GMAT, you're definitely, you're putting in the effort, and I think you should give yourself a pat on the back too. And just remember to take care of yourself in the middle of all of your studying. That will help you in the long run. Please, please listen. I'm begging you. I'm not your dad, but like, just this is all I got.
yeah.
Um, yeah. And
Awesome.
so, yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
Awesome. No, I think that's a perfect note to send it off on, Simon. Everyone, take care of yourself first. You only get you only get one life, as we've said. And so you're putting in the work now. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, Simon, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me.